Can you imagine making a week's worth of pizzas for less than the cost of just one from the world's cheapest pizza joint? And these aren't just any pizzas, they're tastier, already straight from your freezer, and they even help you lose weight. After losing 70 pounds and spending 4 years making and eating pizzas in my kitchen, I know the importance of convenience and flavor. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a week's worth of protein pizzas in 15 minutes using just 6 ingredients. Let's get into it. The dough needs some resting time to build flavor, so we'll start with that. All we need to make it is a bowl and a spoon. Start by throwing your bowl on the scale and adding 475 grams of the cheapest all-purpose flour you can find. I mean cheap. Now, if we were feeling bougie, we'd use 00 flour for a lighter, airier crust that's easier to stretch. But let's face it, we on a budget though, and switching to 00 flour would tack on 42 cents per pizza. Then toss in 100 grams of Vital Wheat gluten, 12.5 grams of salt, and 4 grams of yeast. Vital Wheat gluten has as much protein per serving as protein powder, costs way less, and still gives you that classic pizza dough taste. This ingredient alone adds 15 grams of protein to each pizza and is easy to get at most grocery stores. Whisk those ingredients together, then add 425 grams of water to the bowl. Now, grab your spoon and start mixing until the dough is fully hydrated, aka there are no more dry spots left. If the spoon starts giving you trouble, it's time to get dirty and go in with a soaking wet hand. Press and mix until the dough looks like this. Cover it with plastic wrap and go watch a YouTube video, take a shower, or contemplate your life choices. Come back in 20 minutes.
A few moments later.
This is where we'll get our hands wet again and perform a technique known as a stretch and fold. But first, we need to release the dough from the bottom of the bowl so it stretches with ease. Now with one hand holding the dough down, use the other to pull it as far as it'll go and fold it over itself. Turn the bowl 90 degrees, pull, and fold again. Repeat until you've stretched all sides of the dough. You'll notice it stretches less with each pull. That's a good thing. It means everything is working. Flip the dough over, tuck your hand underneath, and use the side of the bowl to shape it into a smooth ball. Cover the dough for an additional 20 minutes, like this video, during which the dough should have gassed up a bit. After that, I like to do another stretch and fold to really strengthen the gluten network. But if you're feeling lazy, you can skip straight to the next step. No judgment. Divide the dough into 5 roughly 200-gram pieces. On the counter, repeat the stretch and fold process for each piece. Then flip them over and gently pull and turn each one using the counter's friction to form a smooth ball. Pull, turn, repeat. Once all your dough balls are ready, grab 5 medium vacuum seal bags and add a ball to each one. Seal them up with the vacuum pump and pop them in the fridge for 24 hours. Wait, Nick, you're a liar. I thought you said this was a freezer recipe.
Straight from your freezer.
It absolutely is, but the time in the fridge will give us 3 major benefits. 1, enhanced texture leading to a chewy yet tender crust. 2, better browning in the oven thanks to the sugars created during yeast fermentation. And 3rd, and most importantly, an incredible flavor from the long fermentation process. 24 hours later, you will notice the dough is full of gas and is ready for consumption. If you're planning to make the pizza in the next 3 to 4 days, simply pull a dough ball from the fridge about 2 hours before baking and jump straight to the stretching step in this video. But we want pizza 6 months from now, so what do? Take those vacuum sealed bags from today's sponsor, Zwilling, out of the fridge. Make sure not to spread out the dough here. This will prevent you from getting that big, beautiful crust we all love in a Neapolitan pizza. Trust me, I learned the hard way. So we'll vac seal them again with the push of a button to remove any air caused by the fermentation and place them in the freezer. Removing the air with the vacuum pump helps prevent food from getting freezer burn, which keeps the texture, flavor, and nutrients intact, extending the overall freshness of your food. It also saves valuable freezer space. This is exactly why I've been using Zwilling's reusable vacuum seal bags for years. Just take a look at my previous meal prep recipes where I used their products long before they became a sponsor. Zwilling is known for its top-tier quality, and their Fresh and Save starter set is no exception. It keeps my food fresh up to 5 times longer, helping me waste less food and save money.
You can hear how crisp the skin still is.
The Fresh and Save starter set comes with a rechargeable vacuum pump, a small and large glass container for keeping fruits and vegetables fresh, as well as 2 small and 2 medium vacuum bags. And if you use the code E4CM at checkout, Zwilling will add 10 additional medium bags to your order for free. I'll drop a link below if you'd like to check out some Zwilling products for yourself. The sauce you pick for this pizza is way more important than you'd think. A cheap sauce? That's a surefire way to your pizza tasting like Fremunda cheese. No thanks. On the other hand, if you go for a top-tier sauce without checking the price, suddenly each pizza costs as much as a fancy steak dinner. The sauce I used in my Lou Malnati's deep dish? It's the best of both worlds. Absolutely delicious, super cheap, and perfectly seasoned right out of the can. There's just one issue. It's massive. How do we deal with that? Simple. Portion it out into containers and freeze it. Whenever you need more sauce, simply move a container to the fridge to defrost the day before. Perfect timing for when you're making more dough. I personally love using these stackable, affordable containers because they come in all sizes and keep things organized. But honestly, use whatever works for you. Now, if this is your first time watching and don't trust my recipes enough to buy a 7-pound tub of pizza sauce, I totally get it. Grab a can of the tried and true Cento crushed tomatoes, add salt to taste, and you've got yourself a solid pizza sauce. Before we freeze the containers, we have to portion out sauce for the pizzas. Grab 5 small containers and add 70 grams of sauce to each. Stack them up and place them in the freezer along with the rest of the sauce. Now let's talk cheese. Fresh mozzarella is amazing, but it's got commitment issues. It only lasts 3 to 4 days in the fridge before going moldy, no matter how well you treat it. Store it. And since we're keeping costs low by buying in bulk, we need a plan. The good news? After testing pizza after pizza, I've learned that if you freeze fresh mozzarella the right way, it lasts essentially forever and still tastes just as good. For this pizza, we're using Galbani's value-sized 18-ounce fresh mozzarella. It's by far the cheapest per ounce, so I did want to feature it in this video. But I'll admit, it's much more watery and doesn't taste as good as the Cappiello brand. If you can spare an extra 30 cents per pizza, definitely upgrade to Cappiello. It's worth it. But no matter which brand you choose, here's the first step. Take the mozzarella out of the packet and wrap it in a paper towel, or 2. This step is critical to get rid of excess moisture before freezing. Speaking of, avoid mozzarella balls stored in water. They're way too wet and you'll end up with a bubbling pizza pond in your oven, and this will eventually lead to a soggy crust. Nobody wants that. There is water also caked between all the pre-cut slices, so separate the pre-cut slices, lay them on a paper towel, and pat them dry again. With 2 towels if necessary. Now, let's grab our scale and portion out 60 grams per pizza. Just to make sure the cheese didn't leak any additional water, we'll pat it dry one last time. Then toss all your portions into a medium Zwilling vacuum seal bag, seal it up, and vac seal with the push of a button. Congratulations, you've got enough cheese for 7 pizzas, ready to go whenever you are. About 2 to 3 hours before you want to eat, simply take 1 dough, 1 sauce, and 1 block of cheese out of the freezer. I like to put the cheese in a small bowl so the entire surface of the cheese is touching the ceramic. This will help the cheese defrost faster. About halfway through, I like to flip both the dough and cheese, but this isn't necessary. You can also defrost everything the night before by moving all the components into the fridge. However, you will still need to let the dough warm up on the counter for 1 to 2 hours, or else it'll be impossible to stretch. When the dough is ready, we'll lightly dust our work surface, carefully take the dough out of the vac seal, and place it directly on the flour. We'll add a light dusting of flour over the top as well and start forming our crust using our fingertips. I like to leave about 1 inch of crust so that we have a crust that rises significantly in the oven and gives us a true Neapolitan style of pizza. After the crust is outlined, we'll press the dough down in the center using our fingertips. At this point, the dough usually starts sticking to the counter. If so, just flip the dough over, add some flour, flip back over, and keep pressing. The goal is to slowly push the dough outward until it is about 5 to 6 inches. Once you have done this a few times and get used to it, this will only take 60 to 90 seconds from vac seal to now. By the way, I measured the flour that stuck to my test pizzas and took the average, which I accounted for in the calories, to try and make the macros as accurate as possible. Now all we have to do is use gravity and our knuckles to stretch the dough out to its final size. Before that though, I like to lay down a sheet of parchment paper. This is a super simple hack to prevent your pizza from sticking while transferring it in the oven and keeps toppings from burning on the oven floor, aka no smoke alarms going off. Even with my experience making pizzas, this happened a couple times during testing and the parchment paper takes all the risk away. Now, we'll pick up the dough and put our hands underneath it, making sure to avoid the crust and make 2 fists. We'll then slowly turn the dough with our fists while stretching out at the same time. With the combination of gravity and manual stretching, the dough should only take about 1 to 2 minutes to get to the desired length. We can test this by putting the dough down on the parchment, laying it flat, and measuring it. If it's not 9 to 11 inches, just pick it up and repeat the process for another 15 to 30 seconds. Another stretching technique you could try is lifting the dough and placing your fingers just inside the edge where the sauce will meet the crust. Slowly rotate the dough in a circle, letting gravity do the work to stretch it out to the size you prefer. Once we have the length locked in, add our sauce to the middle of the dough and use the bottom of a spoon to evenly spread it out to the start of the crust. Getting sauce on the crust will prevent it from rising as high, so take your time when you get to the edges. Our dough is now ready to be par-baked and thrown into a preheated 550-degree oven. There is one major issue though. Since we can't achieve the same high temperatures in a home oven as we would in a wood-fired or traditional pizza oven, we need to make the most of what we have. I'll show you 2 effective methods to do just that. First, here's the more accessible option that might not be perfect, but is available to everyone. Preheat an aluminum pan, like a sheet pan, in the oven. Once your dough is topped and ready, place it onto a cookie sheet or another sheet pan. Then carefully transfer it to the preheated pan in the oven. Since the sheet pan is piping hot, the dough will start cooking instantly. The problem is, the sheet pan doesn't retain heat nearly as well, so while you'll still get a great tasting pizza, the bottom of the crust will not be as crisp. For the absolute best results, I highly recommend investing in a pizza steel. They get super hot, retain heat exceptionally well, and will last a lifetime. And speaking of longevity, my cookbook is designed to grow with you for life. Every new recipe I create for the channel gets added to the book, giving owners exclusive early access. Since its release, I've added 60 recipes, some available months before they hit the channel. Thousands of people, myself included, have seen incredible results utilizing these recipes. If you're ready to do the same, click the link in the description below and use code E4CM for 10% off. So, our pizza has sauce on it, but no cheese. Why aren't we adding the cheese before putting it in the oven? The dough takes longer to cook than the cheese does to melt and would ruin our pizza. Par-baking the dough alone for 4 to 5 minutes ensures both the cheese and dough will be perfectly cooked. While the dough par-bakes, let's prep the cheese. Yes, the cheese is already portioned out, but you'll notice that, again, there is condensation from it to frosting, both on the surface and between each piece. So one last time, we'll take a paper towel and pat each piece of mozzarella, making sure to dry both sides. After just par-baking, the crust is looking absolutely incredible. Now we'll take our mozzarella, rip it up, and evenly spread out the cheese across the pizza. Let's throw it back in for another 2 to 3 minutes or until the cheese starts to bubble. Keep a close eye on the pizza though, because just 30 seconds of overcooking can make the cheese squeeze out its oil. I like to grab the pizza from the oven when it looks like this.
Beautiful.
Perfectly golden brown and calling my name.
Papacito.
And this crust? Just listen. This pizza can easily fit into anyone's daily macros and will fill you up for dinner. But how do you stay on track and hit your goals for breakfast and lunch? In this video here, I'll show you how to meal prep McDonald's sausage McMuffins in just 30 minutes that are also freezer friendly and packed with protein. Until next time, deuces.